And we're live.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Municipal Revitalization and Heritage Advisory Board. Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum, and therefore we cannot proceed with this meeting. Do we have a quorum now? Someone has just arrived.
We do have quorum, Chair Ross.
So we can proceed with the meeting.
We can proceed with the meeting.
Well, isn't that wonderful? Good morning.
Thank you, Anna, for joining us.
Okay, just as we went live. Okay, so, all right, so then I will call the meeting to order. The agenda you have before you, and we are adding an item, item 9.2, correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct, Chair Ross. We'll be adding item 9.2, which will be 5 Prince Street. It's an application, a building accessory application. Ms. Ellis will be speaking to it.
Good. All right. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Huntley, seconded by Ashley Stewart. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. I will have to declare a conflict of interest for item 9.2, but I don't do that yet. So item 5, closed session. We do not have a closed session today. Item 6, the minutes of February 6/1, the minutes of February 17, 2022, which were distributed to you. Any corrections? If not, could someone move the acceptance of the minutes of February 17th? Ashley Stewart is moving. I can't see everybody, sorry.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Huntley, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes, item 7.1, 1 King Street tree updates. Ms. Ayotte.
Thank you, Chair. So the trees have been removed, obviously. And new trees will be planted. Chris wasn't exactly sure at the time. It should be sometime soon. We actually, we did send out posted a press release on our website, and we did send some information out on social media. And for the most part, I think most people understood. You know, I did kind of look at some comments made in some other forums. Not sure if any committee members received any comments, but judging by what I saw, for the most part, there were a few, obvious concerns, but for the most part, I think people understood that the trees were past their date and needed to come down. Actually, some people thought it looked better because they could see the Nexicon building or the old town hall. So they thought it actually looked really good. However, I think we need some more greenery down there, but anyways, so that's my update.
Okay, thanks, Bridget. I actually think it looks fine, but it would be nice to have some trees again, but you can see the building beautifully. So they did a good job. So,
yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Ayotte?
I do, Rob.
Okay.
More of a comment than a question, I guess. I think maybe you've already planned to do it, but when you put the new trees in, you might want to have sort of the same sort of media splash as well, like kind of the closure on the thing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other comments? Okay, thanks very much. Moving on to item 8.1, the BIA update, and Councillor Huntley is going to do that in place of Heather Clark.
Yeah, sure. So we haven't met for almost a month now, I guess. But the big project that we've been working on is a kickoff to Summer Festival on June 4th. So another street closure, bands, bouncy castles, beer gardens, the whole shebang. And of course, the clerk's booth for registering for voting, very important. But that's the big one there. On the other thing that has come up, and I think this committee is obviously aware of it, is the Fire Hall Bridge replacement this summer. So we did have discussions around how we deal with that and different events throughout the summer on the BIA. But with regard to the decorating committee, they had actually had a work plan of building planters for that bridge Obviously, with the bridge under repair, it's not going to make a lot of sense. So I think they're going to shift gears and actually put planters on the Distillery Street Bridge, which will be the same design, so they can use it as a prototype. So I look forward to seeing kind of how they handle that. It should look pretty good in the end. I think, you know, the more planters on the bridges, the better in my world. So
Probably be a good trial run too, for if it's something that would work on the County Road 21 bridge when they're done with it, because I think they're trying to match them.
yeah, the idea would be to
That's
match
what-
it. And I think, you know, having the baskets or whatever that is they build on it on the, you know, the arena side. I mean, it can be quite striking. I mean,
Yeah.
it could
So
look
they
pretty
do
good.
have to still go through the same process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
'cause
They
it-
would have to-
Get
Yeah, but it should
permission
be-
from the county. Yeah.
Right, but the bridges should be identical in the end. I mean, so the prototype that they build for that one should just transfer over to the other bridge. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's just you still need the permit. That's where I was going.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Anything
about it.
else?
Okay.
BIA, that's it? Great, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Oh,
one
yeah,
other
yeah.
thing
Carry
is-
on.
Is I believe, and I now I might be confusing emails versus resolutions, but I think, yeah, as a heads up, I think they're actually planning on moving the ladies' night off of the Thursday and having it on a Sunday later in the summer as well. So that's kind of a new endeavor. And we'll see how that one works out as well.
On the Lord's Day.
In the afternoon, it won't conflict.
Okay. All right. As long as there's beer. Okay.
Or wine.
Or wine, yeah. Anything else in terms of BIA? Thanks very much, Councillor Huntley. And moving on to item 8.2, financial report, Ms. Ayotte. I think you're down for that.
Yeah, I am. I was just scrolling around trying to find my mute button. So our financial report is, the budget obviously was approved. We didn't meet in March, so I would have provided that update then. We haven't incurred any expenses, so the financial report is the same as it would have been back in January and February. I think as we get down into the work plan, I think there are budget items there, so we can kind of dig a little bit deeper. So some of our projects that we've got on our work plan, we can start moving forward with now that the budget is approved.
Okay, thanks very much. Moving on then, if there's no questions for Ms. Ayotte, to the work plan. Do we want to highlight, just go through that and see where we're at? Let's find my copy. Okay. All right, so do we just want to run through it quickly, or is there certain ones we want to highlight? Number 1, Dale Monument, that's something that's going to happen in the future. So anything more to say about that? Probably not. Springville and Ebenezer Cemetery restoration. Cindy, anything to say about that?
No, they're planning on adding that to the work plan for the spring to do the trimming and the edging over there. So we'll
Okay.
just keep an eye on that. I would say the next one would be your heritage bylaw, and I do know we have updates about that.
Yes, yeah. So what's happening there? Would Bridget be the one to report to that?
She would. So I'm happy to report that our application to Young Canada Works program was successful. So we didn't get matching funds of 13.5, which I had hoped to get, but we did get $10,000. So that certainly augments our budgeted 13.5. And what that does is it allows us to create a small contract position for a heritage bylaw coordinator. So I'm really trying to hit the ground running and get this person hired in May. It would be a 5 to 6 month contract position. So I kind of wanted to just run the key functions of this person's position by the committee, just to make sure that you guys are all on board with what I'm going to be what we're going to be asking this person to do. So, so if you just bear with me for a sec. So the number one thing would be to obviously update and enhance our existing heritage bylaws. So that would include researching the specific architectural features that are identified in the bylaw, do site visits, and update the status of the property and or the building. So if there've been any modifications that maybe the committee isn't aware of, or just modifications due to age or whatever. And then to update the existing bylaw, or, you know, draft a description in the bylaw that's a little bit more robust, and contains specifics about the heritage feature that we're trying to protect. And essentially maybe some options as to, you know, given that the heritage feature that we're trying to protect, you know, the materials to protect it may not be available now, or there may be new techniques. Is there something we can build into the bylaw to capture that? Or is there sort of a guide or a pamphlet or something that this person could kind of create to provide guidance to property heritage property owner? If there's time, I'm hoping that they could review the inventory of culturally significant properties. So we have a lot of barns and homes outside of Millbrook, in the rural area, that are not designated, but they're considered culturally significant. So I thought maybe this person could, you know, do some site visits, update the status of those properties, and maybe identify anything that we may want to pursue for heritage preservation, so to protect by bylaw. So, and always the catch-all, other duties as assigned. So that's kind of the key functions that I've put in the draft job description. We're still refining it, and obviously we have to go through our HR process here. But is there anything that I'm missing that you think I may not have touched on, or maybe don't need?
So Bridge, through you, Chair. Is there something that we can use to start with? Like, is this person going to start from scratch, or do we have like examples of bylaws that we think would, you know, we would be practical to start and build off of, or like, what's the first step here?
That's a good question. We could look for existing heritage, like, you know, with other communities. So
yeah, I just hate to see this person kind of come in, sit down at a desk and go, okay, now what? You know, like. For sure. Yeah. And that's a really good point. So we could maybe look through communities like Port Hope, or, you know, maybe even Stratford, and look and see what their bylaws are, to see what kind of meat they have. You know, that's a really good suggestion. So maybe it's worth, and you know, and I know how much you love getting assignments, but you know, bringing back a couple of those bylaws for us to kind of, you know, go, you know, this is kind of in the right shape and frame that we're looking for.
I'm always willing to fulfill the wishes of the committee, Councillor Huntley. Yeah, for sure.
Just now that we know this is a go, like I'd hate to see time wasted at the beginning for this person, right? Like,
yeah, you want them
hit the ground. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is a small, like, it's a short contract, right? So, yeah. So, okay. That sounds good.
So just so I'm clear, so they would be looking at the present bylaws and dealing with the shortcomings, any problems, is that right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, the aim is to revise the present heritage bylaws and make them better. Is that?
Yeah, I think the challenge we've had in the past in enforcing the bylaw is that there isn't a lot of detail in and to provide guidance to the homeowner. So, you know, we might say it's in the Gothic era or Gothic period, but we're not saying exactly what it is we're trying to protect. So it's hard for the homeowner to, you know, it's basically a judgment call of the committee. Well, yeah, we like that. No, we don't. It kind of puts some parameters around what our comments are and what they can be, and provide direction to the homeowner.
So greater clarity, is that would be
Yeah,
that?
yeah. That's a nice, short, concise way of saying that.
Good.
Chair, may I jump in? Is to
Yeah.
add some comments? So I think, Bridget, the concept is for this contract position for the bylaws. Basically, I think what the term is that we're missing in the bylaws is heritage attributes. So what it would be doing is identifying what the heritage attributes are for each designated property, which is typical in the new template for a proper and updated designation. And it essentially lists those items that are essential to the reasoning for why the property was designated. And then should a proposal come before the committee or the town, we could say, okay, yes, this does protect them, or no, your intent is to remove one of the heritage attributes like windows or materials or patterning language. So I believe that's the intent, because that is completely missing from any of the current bylaws.
Thanks, Ashley.
Sorry, I was just going to add too is I can help with pulling some examples of bylaws.
That'd be fantastic.
And sort of, I think, well, Port Hope, Kawartha Lakes, I can access some from Kawartha Lakes, what a good bylaw would look like. And I was also going to offer, if you want to, I think we have a subcommittee for the bylaws, correct? If you want, we could have like a separate meeting to sort of brainstorm, or even like meet with the new staff once they are taken on, and we can sort of give them their like duties, right, to get the ball rolling as soon as they're there, if that helps too.
That would be fantastic. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're extremely busy. Do we have a subcommittee, Cindy? I'm sorry. I thought
we did.
Do we? Okay.
Because Ashley was on it.
I thought so.
Okay.
That's what I was like, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. No, that's good. That's
okay.
Good.
Okay.
I will confirm who that is. We don't have it currently written beside on the subcommittee. It's only you, Bridge. So I'll confirm who it is in our minutes, and we'll add that. No problem, Jeff.
Okay. So Ina has a hand up, I think.
Hi, yes. I just had a question in terms of the purpose of the bylaw. So just so I understand, it's to protect heritage as well as preserve.
So
yes.
Are you asking Bridget? Yes. Bridget?
Yes. Yeah. No. And I'm just stalling just to. Yeah. It is to protect and preserve, but I think we have to be careful about the word preserve. In that, in some cases, it's difficult to do like for like. Just the current market, the materials maybe are different, or maybe there's different techniques.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this is, if our intention with this bylaw is to also have clear guidelines for how homeowners can perhaps apply to designate their home as a heritage home, would that be something that we would consider in this bylaw?
So what we're looking to do predominantly is the existing bylaws that we have are the ones we're trying to focus on. It's probably a really good idea to add that to how somebody would go about designating their home as a heritage home, but that would not, it's not right now the intent of the job. It's more to kind of tighten up and provide clarity on what we already have. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah, but I think definitely that's a really good point. And it is to add that how you would go about designating your home. Yeah, for sure.
There's in this area, there's a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd hate to see that with a lot of the new developments, I hate to see that go,
yeah,
for lack of a better word. So
Yeah, and I think part of this role too would be to inventory what we have, but maybe also kind of turn an eye to what maybe we don't have and could be explored for protection under heritage bylaw.
Ashley, you wanted to add to the conversation?
Yes, I was just going to say that between the Ontario Heritage Act and the Standards and Guidelines of Historic Places in Canada, both of them clearly outline how a property can go and be designated, whether that's under Part 4, which is individually designated, or if it's under a heritage district. So in our case, it would be under Part 4, and at the municipal level. So there's lots of government policy that already covers how to do that, but I completely agree. I think it's worth taking a look to see if, with the development that is going on in our backyard, is there anything that's at risk that needs to be identified sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions about this item or concerns? Okay, thanks very much. We look forward to hearing more about the person that's appointed. Okay, moving down, Heritage Awards. Bridget, have you received? Oh, I know you've received one.
I've received one.
One.
I have two. Actually, Karen had provided a nomination back before COVID. So I have two. I'm not sure if you want to convene the subcommittee to review the applications and move forward with awards, or if you want to hold off till you have more. We have done quite a few blasts in terms of social media, and and it hasn't done a lot to generate results, but happy to send out more. Just to poke people and see if there's something they want to recommend. But I'll leave that to the committee for discussion.
Who is on the subcommittee? I'm trying to remember. Was Peter and Bruce? Is that right?
Yeah, and sorry.
Was David, but he's no longer with us.
David,
So,
yeah.
So we maybe need
David.
someone else. Okay, I mean, my view, it's just my opinion, is that, we either do something fairly quickly or put it off to the fall, but it's, if we've asked and we're not getting much, maybe we should just go with what we've got. What do other people think? Feel free to disagree. Any strong views? Obviously not. So.
Well, it would be nice to see what they were. I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Going in blindly. Like.
Yeah. No. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to forward them. I unfortunately I just don't have them right at my fingertips right now, but I'm happy to forward them to the committee as a whole, and then if you want to convene the subcommittee to
okay. Anna has a
plan something. Sorry.
Question or a comment?
Yeah, just in terms of the application and the volume, is this typically how many we would get per year, or do we get more?
I think we've only done the awards once, and I'm trying to remember. It was a couple of years before COVID, so it's been a couple of years now. Couple of 5 maybe. And I'm trying to remember how many we had. I think as a committee we nominated quite a few, but I guess the short answer to your question, Anna, is we might have 5.
Yeah, 5 rings a bell with me.
Yeah.
Sort of, it was Nexicon, the Historical Society, various others, but yeah. So now we have 2, correct, Bridget?
Yeah.
2 have been submitted. So,
yeah.
Okay. So if you circulate those, the ones that have been nominated, maybe we can make a decision next time, something, I don't know, or just decide to go ahead.
I don't think the clerk likes the idea.
Yes, Cindy.
The only thing I would like to add is that I really think it's important that we issue those 2 certificates this year. I think it's important that we do it. I also believe before the election. I think it's important that we continue the momentum. It is right. It has been at least 5 years, maybe even longer. The other thing that we had on here is that Bridget was going to check with Kyle just to see if anybody had taken out any building permit applications or anything like that. So I really think it's important that we do something this summer. I really do. So let's try. We've talked about, holding a joint event. We've talked about different things, but maybe we can even present the certificate in a council forum as well. Like if we can get back in person, fingers crossed. But I think we need to issue those certificates this year, even if it is just to recipients. That's all.
Yeah, and I do apologize. I kind of dropped the ball on checking with Kyle, so I will do that.
Okay. Thanks very much. All right, I should maybe move us along here. The downtown mural, has anything happened with that?
So the short answer is no. We were kind of in a holding pattern in terms of waiting for the budget to see how much money we had. I also had applied to my Main Street Activator program and the RED program for funding to augment what we had budgeted for. My hopes was that particularly with the Main Street Activator program, we had access to a larger pool of money. So I was hoping that, I think if I back up, I think in November, this committee had kind of landed on, we were going to make a recommendation to council to put a freestanding mural at 70 King. So now that the budget has passed, the next step would be to prepare that report to council and ask if they would be asked for permission to put it there. Going back to the funding, the Main Street Activator program, the application, I was trying to apply for funding to hire a landscape architect to kind of reimagine that space, but also to secure some funding to remove the existing mural or deal with the existing mural. Unfortunately, we got turned down for both. So we just have the 7,000 that was allocated in the 2022 budget. Actually, I think it was 2021 and it was carried over. So we can move forward with the project to put a freestanding mural on 70 King, but we do have to address the issue of what we're going to do with the existing mural. Peter did secure some quotations, so he has some vendors that we could tap to do this project, but I think we're pretty tight to the wire to just use what we have for that actual mural. I mean, we might be able to come in under budget, but we're talking about maybe $1,500 to $2,000, and I really don't think that's going to be enough to address the existing mural and how to deal with that. So that's a conversation for the committee, and we haven't approached Andy yet for that reason, because I wanted to know how much money I actually had to work with before I kind of threw on the table some ideas as to how to deal with it. I believe Andy has not been too crazy about us mounting the mural onto his building, which is why we explored putting it at 70 King. So I'm not sure if the best removal technique that's not going to damage any of the brick. So I'm I can move forward with the project on 70 King, but I guess, how do you want to address the existing mural?
Oh dear, yeah, it's a big question. And was there a subcommittee connected with this too, wasn't there? Or was it had very big week?
Yes, I believe it was Bruce, Peter, and I think Karen originally.
Yeah.
Karen, I don't know if you and I changed places, or
I don't know.
Or if I just, nose my way in there.
Yeah, I believe that you have stepped in lieu of me.
Okay.
Okay.
So there you go.
because it strikes me as, well, I don't know, that we could have a motion if we need a motion to move with this, but it sounds like we have to have some conversations again with the owner of the building, and you know, that there's something has to be decided in terms of dealing with the old mural, right? So it's I don't see, we could move in principle this morning that we erect the new mural over the old mural, the photograph of the old mural, but we really got to talk to the owner and see what's possible, or what he's willing to allow. So how do we move this forward? Do we need some interested people to meet with staff and try and resolve this? You know, it's dragging on, you know, so we got to do something, I think.
Yeah, so maybe what we could do initially is get some costs for removal and some recommendations for removal, so we know how much we're going to be looking at. It may be something that we have to explore for another budget cycle. So we could move forward with the mural project on 70 King, provided council is okay with that. And do it as part of a phased project. Obviously, the first phase would be to get the mural, but then I think we also talked about reimagining that space and kind of creating a nice little parkette area, if you will. It'd be a great area because it's right at the head of the trail. It's actually the site of where the train station was, so that's good. So we can kind of move forward with that. Also should point out too, there is construction going on at the yard, so we do have to kind of time it when that's done, or at least it's probably a good idea if we time it for when it's done. But maybe the first step for the addressing the existing mural is to get some costs and some recommendations as to how to deal with that we can sit down with the owner and say, okay, how do you want to move forward? And then this is probably an expense that will need to be addressed in a future budget cycle. What do you think?
So there's the two issues, the obliterating of the old mural, however that's done, and then the creation of the new mural and the placing of it at the trailhead, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think you can move forward with that aspect now. You know, we have to take a report to council to ask if we could erect the mural there. And we can kind of put some ideas as to how we want the space to kind of look. Ideally, we could have had an architect. If we had had the funding go through, we could have maybe hired an architect to do that, but we don't. So we'll do, we'll kind of come up with something on our own. But first of all, we need to get permission from council to use the space. So that's step one. And that can kind of go on regardless. The two can kind of go on at the same time, I think. So we can try and get some costs as to, and some recommendations as to how to remove the mural from the existing building. Or not. I don't know what.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, Madam Clerk, do we need a motion at this point, or are we still we're just investigating costs and things again?
To you, Chair Ross, I have seen a couple hands come up, so let's have.
Oh, sorry, yes, Ashley.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Huntley put his hand up too, and let's have some discussion and just see where we go from.
Okay, so who was first, Councillor Huntley or Ashley?
Ashley can go first.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that I can offer to chat with a colleague to at least get some recommendations to the methodology for removing or suggested methodology for removing the existing mural from the masonry, and see if I can find any recommendations, whether it's contractors or whatever it might be, and then I can just circulate that by email or bring it to the next meeting. But I can at least offer that to sort of get the ball rolling, what the best way of getting that off the existing bricks would be. So I was just offering that as a way to help.
Offer accepted.
Yeah, that's very, very kind of you. Thank you,
Okay.
Ashley.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll put it on my
Okay.
to-do list.
Councillor Huntley, you had a point?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I do believe these things can operate in parallel. Obviously, checking down, how do we cleanly and safely remove the previous mural? But as in terms of putting the new mural up at 70 King Street, I think it's got to be part of a bigger landscaping plan there. Like just erecting it just isn't going to work. Like I don't think we want to do it, half-assed, right? Like I think and if it takes another budget cycle to get money and buy-in to invest in that park, I think it's worth it. Like I'd hate to see just the mural go up and it just looks like the trailhead sign there that nobody even realizes is there.
Yeah, yeah.
Make a bigger to-do about it, clean up the area around the post boxes, clean up the water fountain, use it. Like it's a pretty cool little space right there. Like,
yeah.
Like, I think we really need to invest in that versus just throw up a mural.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think I will kind of throw this out there. I do think we probably need to use our budget. I would be concerned that if we tried to roll it over again, if we didn't use it, because I think we've rolled it over a couple of times. And
well, I mean, I don't think rolling it over is going to be a big problem if we have a better view to what we're going to do there. Right? If it's like we keep rolling it over with we think we want to do something, but I think if we can come forward with this is what we're going to do, I think it's an easier rollover.
Okay. Cindy, sorry, go ahead.
So I don't know, like you said, you were going to engage some landscape consultants and things like that. Like I don't know how we find a budget, or we do engage somebody to come up with some sort of plan for that area. I think that plan is going to be key in order for us to move forward.
Yeah, so that was just something that I had put into the application for the Main Street Activator.
Mm-hmm.
So I had kind of said we're putting a mural in and we kind of want to reimagine the space. But seeing as how we didn't get that funding, we only have the funds that we've set aside specifically for the mural. So
what if we repurpose those funds to come up with a better strategic plan for that? Like, are we anchored to this has to be for the mural? Going to be for planning for the mural?
I'm open to suggestions. If it's the wish of this committee that you would like to consider using the funds allocated for the actual mural done as a landscape architect funds, we could certainly explore that.
Well, maybe it's worth figuring out what a landscape architect would run us to plan the area.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we can decide whether we want to
Make
apply
that decision. Sure.
So
Yep.
Cindy had her hand up, but it's gone down, I think. So
The only
You all
thing
right?
I wanted just to piggyback on the conversation is I think you're right, Councillor Huntley, we can run this in simultation. There's no problem with that. I think we need to get confirmation on that site before we get down a little path that, we're going to go there, because what if council doesn't support that? So I think let's lock in at exactly what Bridget was saying. Let's find out, speak with Mr. Stevens, I guess, go back there and kind of see where we're at with him. And then work with Ashley and the team to find out what it will cost to remove it. In the same time, we'll ask council what their thoughts are on developing a picturesque landscape piece there and incorporating the mural as part of it, because I imagine there'll be a couple different budgets. I imagine we'll have Wayne's budget in this. We'll probably have Parks and Facilities budget in this. I don't know if Kyle will touch it because there's that wellhead there, but there's a lot of components on there. So,
Sure.
And you're right, we do have the construction piece right now going on, which gives us a little bit of room, but there's a chance that $7,000 is going to get eaten up pretty quick just doing a restoration and a removal of it on that building and preserving a picture already so that we have something to move forward with to replace it. So I think Councillor Huntley's right. I don't think it's a big deal if we're going to ask for more money. I think we can use what we can right now to keep the ball rolling on a couple of the components. And then we make a bigger picture if we get approval for 70 King Street West. And then we go forward with a plan and say, this is what we have to contribute. And this is what the committee's thoughts are. And maybe we incorporate Wayne and Chris and whoever the other players are once we get approval on that location. If that's not the location, then we're kind of back at the drawing board to say, what do we do now if it's not 70 King Street West? Do we look at preserving it on, Mr. Stevens' building and create an agreement, or do we get it off there, and kind of where do we go? So that was all I just really wanted to add.
Okay, so Anna, you had your hand up at one point. You're okay now? Bridget?
Yeah, I think the idea, if I am understanding correctly too, with Councillor Huntley's comments, is like, yeah, our first step is we have to get permission from council. That's a given to use the space. But I think was your idea that if we come before council with more of a concrete plan, as opposed to we just want to use the site for the mural, I think was your idea that we have something to put in front of them, that it might actually be a little bit more fulsome than just putting the mural up. We want to use the space to put a mural up. Is that kind of what? Yeah. So with regards to removing the mural on the existing space, before we sit down with the owner, I think we need to understand what options we have for removal and how much money we're going to need to ask for before we sit down and throw options to him. Because if we say to him, okay, we're going to remove it, and he doesn't like the way we're going to remove it, then, that's going to be a bit problematic. So I think we have to know how much money we need to know how we can remove it and how much money it's going to cost us, and be prepared that, we're going to have to go probably to go to another budget cycle. I don't know as we want to use the funds that we've allocated for the mural just strictly to remove the mural, for two reasons. I don't think it's going to be enough, number one. And number two, I think you have some members on the committee that are very passionate about this mural going up. So I think we just have to be sensitive to that.
So just to follow up with that, Chair, I don't disagree with you one bit, Bridget. I think that what we need are numbers in front of us to start making decisions, right? Yeah. So we need to know how much what it would cost to take down the mural, and we need to know kind of what investment we're willing to make, if it's even possible, at 70 King Street. So I think those are the big question marks. We have 7,000. Is 7,000 going to cut it? I don't think anybody thinks it is going to, but what is? And that's kind of going to be the next question, right? And like it goes back to, we keep rolling forward 7,000, but if it's going to be 15, then we just have to have what we need to back us to say this is why it's 15. And then let the parties in power make the decision. But right now we're just kind of stalled, right?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some idea if Ashley can come up with some figures what removal of the present mural might cost. Correct? So
I think she's going to point you to people who can come up with those figures.
Oh, well,
I think Ashley's going to get those numbers for you.
Ms. Alice's hand is up, I see.
Thank you, Chairman Ross. I just had a quick question because I'm digging back in my memory archive here. There was some discussion in the beginning that we needed some funds to actually fix the mural, to be able to take a professional photograph so we could recreate the mural to place it somewhere else. Is that still true? Like we're talking a lot about getting rid of it, but I don't know if we can get rid of it until we fix it and photograph it properly to be able to recreate it. So I'm just trying to confirm for myself, am I out to lunch, or is that still the position we're in? Because that also affects the budget and the timing.
Yeah, my recollection is that one person felt that it needed some touching up before it was photographed, but
it has to be a meter. I think we had some discussion about whether or not it could be digitally touched up, that we could take a picture of it and then just have it digitally touched up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in that camp. I think you can get a picture of it, and there's some pretty sophisticated graphic artists out there that I think could digitally touch it up for you, but
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Bridget. I don't think, I think the digital world is upon us, and we can do a lot of things digitally these days.
It's amazing what you can create, just create, let alone touch up. So yeah.
So just to try and draw this to a conclusion for this meeting, so we're at the point where we will hopefully perhaps by the next meeting, have some idea what costs might be in terms of removing the old mural, and we're also thinking in terms of the larger picture of the placement of the new mural, not just the mural itself. Is that kind of where the conversation is right now?
Well,
Yeah. So why don't?
Sorry, Bridget. Can I just? Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in over top.
Nope.
I think there's a two-stepper in there, Rob, for the 70 King Street. I think one is there the ability to use the space, and then two, what is the cost of then beautifying it, or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
But yeah, the first step is figuring out whether it's even an option.
So how are we going to get to that point? Is there anything we have to decide today?
So do we investigate the cost to hire a landscape architect to reimagine the space, bring that back to the committee, and decide, do you want to use the funds for the downtown mural to have that plan put in place that we can take to council to request for 70 King? So it's more of a complete package that we're putting in front of council. If we do that, then the report to council then becomes twofold. Number one, can we use the funds to go ahead and hire the architect to do that, or and can we use the space to develop to put the mural? So I think the first step is to get some costs together for a landscape architect, and for someone the cost and methods to remove the existing mural. Let's start with that. And then we can take that, if we decide that as a committee that we want to reallocate those funds to hire an architect, then that's what goes in the report to council. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. So will staff be proceeding with that? Do we?
Yeah.
Cindy, do we need a motion at this point, or is it just we're asking staff to do, and as well as Ashley, to do some research?
So I don't think we need a motion. I think all of that's currently already on the table. If we kind of look at what it says in here, these are all the things we're kind of looking for. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to find a location. But something has just popped into my head, because part of our regular council meetings is that council provides updates from committee items that they've discussed on their advisory committees. So potentially, maybe we could have Councillor Huntley bring this up, the idea or the concept of 70 King Street during the council meeting, and see what council's thoughts are. It's not a blindside, it is something, and he could even just say, this is something the committee's thinking about. Maybe it could go as far as a motion that, could then direct staff to do further investigations, or maybe it's just planting the seed to make people think about it, and we can just kind of see what the topic is or what the feel is for 70 King Street. Because otherwise we're almost into probably June or July before we get before council to say, can we use 70 King Street? So I just don't want us to get held up on that, because if out of the gate it's a showstopper, then let's start looking at something else. So I don't know, that just popped into my head when we were listening to the conversation. It is something that, that's why we have that item on our council agenda, so that council can bring updates from items that their committees are working on. Just a thought.
How do you feel about that, Councillor Huntley?
Not a problem at all.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay.
What does staff think? Is that a good idea? And then we'll just see kind of where they go from there. And then in the background, the committee can still be working on the costs and all of that type of stuff we were talking about, Ashley, and then we can kind of go from there. See what the vibe is.
Yeah, it kind of takes the temperature, right? So if we're seeing that there's some significant opposition, then we can try and see how we can address that. So yeah.
I did see Karen. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Karen's gonna say
Yeah.
something.
I do support getting a feel from council before we spend any money, because money is in short supply and there's no sense doing a I understand the reason for the concept, but I don't like spending money if it's a non-starter.
Yeah, I don't think we're
people's time
suggesting.
is valuable too. And I think going to the extent to create all of that, if it's a showstopper out of the gate, everyone's time is just as valuable as money. So I completely agree.
Okay, so
We have
so
an
we know
action.
where we're going. So go ahead, Councillor.
No, we have an action plan.
We have an action plan. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. All right. So items 7, 8, and 9. Anything to report on those? The community improvement plan that's ongoing. Bridget, anything?
So through you, Chair, we do
Yeah.
we do have some 2020 programs that will be projects that are wrapping up. So we did provide them with extensions, obviously due to COVID delays. So for 2020 and 2021, we're starting to see them roll in. They're starting to move forward. 23 King is starting. So that's exciting. We've got a patio project that will be starting soon. Yeah, so they're kind of coming along nicely, and I think we'll be very happy with the results. The township-wide CIP, I'm just waiting on the consultant to provide a draft of the complete CIP. We will circulate that to the TAC committee. The TAC committee will review it and we'll get together and discuss it further. And then the next step would be, I think we present a draft to council. We do have to do an official plan amendment in order to create policies to permit a township-wide CIP. We have policies specifically for Millbrook. So we just need to add to that to include the rest of the township. And then we would need a confirming bylaw to implement a township-wide CIP. So ideally, both of those, they have to go obviously to a public meeting so that the draft CIP, the draft OPA, and the draft implementing bylaw would go at the same time. And then we would receive comment and make amendments. We also have to circulate to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, incorporate those comments and bring it back to council, hoping to get it implemented by September.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions about the CIP? All right. I don't see any hands. And then the 2 remaining items on the work plan. Oh no, it's only 1 remaining item. The cemeteries, the signage. Is there anything to report on that? Cindy, would you, or sorry, Karen, Peter's not here, and Anna, anything to report on that?
Through you, Chairman Ross, to members of the committee, no, I'm sorry to report that there is really not much happening. We are still doing research. The Planning and Building Department Administrator is helping out with that. But I'm going to be completely honest, the workload at this time is immense, and this has fallen down the priority list. So it is on the list, it is on our minds, and we will bring it back as soon as possible.
Well, as Holy Scripture says, let the dead bury the dead. No, sorry, didn't we? But no, we'll get around to it eventually. So, okay. All right, so I think that finishes the work plan, and we're moving on to item 9.2. So I have to declare a conflict of interest here. So I'll turn off. And Councillor Huntley, you're taking the chair, I believe. And
sure thing.
I will turn on my mute.
I can.
All right. Who's got this report? Is it Karen?
That would be me, Councillor Huntley.
All right.
Okay, so thank you to the committee for your indulgence to add this item to the agenda. So just to give you a little background, the owners of 5 Prince Street in Millbrook did approach township staff about the construction of a new patio and a new pergola on their property at 5 Prince Street. 5 Prince Street is a designated property under the Ontario Heritage Act. At the time when we did pre-consultation, the new patio and pergola were proposed to be located very close to the interior side lot line. That generated a discussion about the need for a planning approval under the Planning Act. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but that Planning Act approvals then click in the potential to require other technical studies in terms of the potential for an environmental impact study, species at risk, and an archaeological assessment. So after some thought and consideration, the owners of 5 Prince Street decided that no, that was not the desired way to go given the time and cost constraints for that. So they have decided to pursue the construction of the pergola and the patio in compliance with the existing zoning bylaw, which means that the pergola will have to be located 2 meters from the side and the rear lot lines. So because the property is designated and because the pergola will require a building permit under the Building Code Act, it is a requirement that written confirmation from council be received prior to the issuance of that building permit. So the standard process in Cavan Monaghan at this time is that this committee does provide a recommendation to council for their consideration so that council can then make a decision on whether the proposed works are in keeping with the heritage feel and ambiance of the existing buildings and structures and the property itself. The bylaw, as with most bylaws, and we've discussed previously, is skinny on the heritage components of this particular house. But as I've said, because their building permit is required under the Ontario Heritage Act, it's applicable law. So the recommendation from council and approval is required. So I did circulate to you the information provided by the applicant in terms of what they're proposing to do. The pergola will be set in the backyard in the location identified on the survey in blue. And the existing frame deck that was built in the 2000s is going to be removed. The owner has indicated that he's building it in a style that complements the heritage style of the house and the property, including the decorative elements that match the front porch of the house. So again, you've had that for review. So I'm here to hopefully receive your comments and your recommendations so that I can prepare a report and take that to council at the next council meeting on May the 2nd.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Committee, what comments, thoughts? Any questions? Issues or concerns? Okay. How would we like to deal with it then? Are we okay with the pergola being constructed as presented? Okay. Would you like to, or sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think it's a lovely design and complementary to the existing porch. I took a drive by the property because I wasn't exactly sure where it sat, and I don't think it will affect any of the view corridors on Prince Street or along the adjacent street there. And I love that they're continuing the language of the decorative brackets from the front porch to the pergola. So I actually think it would be quite lovely because they have a very nice setting there.
Very well said, Ashley. I totally agree with you. I think it would be very complimentary. So I don't have an issue with it. So does anybody want to move that we accept this and move it to council with the Heritage Committee's recommendation to go forward? Enid? Okay. Ashley, you second it?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Pretty unanimous there, Karen.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate your willingness to add this to the agenda. And I'm sure the property owner does as well. We just like to be efficient, keep these things moving as quickly as possible.
Excellent. I will return the gavel back to the chair.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. And that brings us to item 10.1, which is adjournment.
Oh, I could have handled that.
Item 10, actually. So could I have a motion for adjournment, please? Ashley, and who's seconding it?
I will happily second.
Thanks. Councillor Huntley is seconding it. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And our next meeting is May 19th at 9 a.m. Correct?